Galactic Ambassadors. Who are the Galactic Ambassadors on Earth? Are you one of them? Maybe you are. A lot of energy healers and light workers are ambassadors here on Earth that are here to spread the message of our cosmic consciousness. We're going to talk about that and more today with the wonderful Tanys Coughlan on ATP. Stay tuned.
You got to accentuate the positive. Wow, I feel good. A little bit of feel good goes a long way.
You're listening to Karen Swain, teacher of deliberate creation, accentuating the positive, showing you a way to a better life.
Accentuating the positive, it's not just fad, it's sanity. Who in their right mind would accentuate anything else?
Clap along if you feel like that's what you want to do.
G'day, and welcome to another show, Accentuating the Positive with Karen Swain. Back live streaming again on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Networks, syndicated radio all over the world, streaming on about 100, and I think we reach about 120 countries, and we're streaming on about 10 platforms today. One of them didn't, one of them failed. I don't know which one. I think Rumble didn't come through. But hey, Heidi, how are you? Big love. Good day, Tanys. She says, good day, Tanys.
Good day, good day.
Good day. Yeah, so we're going to hear, I was recently on Tanys and Jennifer's show, Twillo Talks, or Cosmic Gab. I think you've got a few names for it, Galactic Gab.
We have different shows, yeah. You were on Twillo Talk. Yeah.
Oh, we're on Twillo, okay. And I heard a little bit of Tanys' story, and I thought, I need to explore this further. And she's got a fascinating story about becoming an energy practitioner and a galactic ambassador, and as many of the people do on the planet, and many of you that listen to the show. Pogo. Hey, how are you?
Hey, Kaylee.
Hello, ladies. Luscious ladies. So for people listening on my shows, let me tell you a little bit about Tanys. I was actually exploring, it was Sunday yesterday for us down under. It's Monday today. I know it's Sunday for you guys up over. But I was looking for your story, like where has Tanys shared her story before? And I couldn't really find anything. I looked on your channel. I just put your name into YouTube. I put, Tanys Coughlan, Rose Coughlan's story. I couldn't find it. So you've not really shared it anywhere before, have you, Tanys?
I've shared it in bits and pieces. I haven't sat and put the whole story, but I've certainly been open on Twillo Talk, and we have one called Galactic Gab with Jennifer. Jen and I do it with Dr. Lisa Thompson. And that one, because we're all involved in Jen's book, that lifetime that she wrote about, and we have a connection there. So we started doing that show about a year ago, I guess. And I've told a fair bit of the galactic stuff on that one as we've gone through, but nothing I haven't sat down and done a whole.
Well, that's what we're going to do today. So let me tell you a little bit about Tanys. Tanys Coughlan worked in home healthcare as in management for many years, but after a couple of bouts of burnout, which was a result of past illness, she didn't address energetically, she decided to have energy healing, which made a big difference in her life. This was when she made the decision to change careers and become an energy practitioner, which incorporates many things that she does. Then a decision to explore her galactic connections after seeing a podcast with someone sharing their galactic story changed everything for Tanys. Today, Tanys is an international teacher, speaker, intuitive healer, and holistic wellness leader, best known as the founder and CEO of Twillo Lifestyle Community and the Twillo Lifestyle Academy. Her work extends into media and community engagement. She hosts shows and talks on energy, consciousness, and healing, collaborates with other leaders in holistic wellness fields, and has been recognized as a galactic ambassador with the Alliance for Extraterrestrial Diplomatic Contact, which is actually where I first saw you. I think that I was on their annual event, online event, and you were the host and of the event, right, Tanys?
Yeah, I was a speaker first thing in the morning, and then I also hosted some of the panel discussions as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I think I missed your morning talk because it was like in the middle of the night here in Australia.
It was almost the middle of the night here. I'm not a morning person, so it was like 7 a.m. and I'm like, I have to talk at 7 a.m.
Yeah,
okay.
and then God, I've gone blank on his name, who's been on my show a couple of times, French-Canadian guy, lives in Thailand.
Sylvain.
You know who I'm talking.
Sylvain Russell.
Came back on the show last year, and he brought Jennifer on the show, and I'm like, oh, I'm loving Jennifer. And so I explored Jennifer's story, which goes into her galactic lives, which you two gals seem to live together. You found each other in this lifetime. Anyway, I'll let you share that. But yeah, and then you invited me on your show, Twillo Talk, and here we are. We're here exploring your story. So, let's get into it. How did the lifestyle change happen?
So I basically was in home healthcare and management, and I ended up having these 2 burnouts. And one day I was out with my husband in between jobs, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to go in here. And it was the employment center, and we had there's a program that was for entrepreneurs and stuff. And I was like, okay, I think I need to go into there and look at the program. And I started my first business there, which was Twillo Consulting, an HR and management consulting company. And because I had my HR certification as well as my Reiki masters and all of that too. Anyway, so I started that one first. And as I was in that program, I ended up getting downloads about spirituality in the workplace. And it was funny because I had the download. They wouldn't let me. I already said I'm not a morning person. They woke me up early morning and said, this is spirituality in the workplace. And my HR hat went on, and I'm like, you can't talk about spirituality in the workplace. And they were like, yes, you can. So anyway, they wouldn't leave me alone until I got up and wrote a whole article about it. I went to a friend's place after that afternoon who was also intuitive. And before I left, she said, I got to give you something. And I'm like, okay. And I hadn't told her about the morning. And she hands me a book, The Idiot's Guide to Spirituality in the Workplace. And I was like, seriously? Like, we're name calling? You just gave me the information this morning. So then I took the book home and I flipped through it, and I'm like, all right, cool. Yeah. All right. And then I had a consultant coming from the program that I was in, and we were going to talk about the HR business and everything. And she sits down, and I've got my KPI reports and all of that ready for her. And she sits down, she says, so what are you going to do if you're not making enough money in the HR? I'm like, oh crap, I'm going to have to tell her I'm going to do Reiki. Do Reiki, energy healing? She's like, that's perfect. That's your differentiator, spirituality in the workplace. So I was like, okay. That was like a big hint. And so at that point, I started the Twillo Lifestyle community as well. And so it was me in my basement at that point, right? Building community. And that was how that started. And then, of course, during COVID, this is just the business overview, but during COVID, I ended up having 4 people ask me to mentor them. And so I went to the guides. I'm like, what does this mean? What do you want me to do? And they're like, just start a school. I'm like, okay, it's just me in my basement. Start a school online. It's okay. I'm like, all right. So I started Twillo Lifestyle Academy, and now we have about 5 teachers. We're just talking to a few more actually to bring them on as well. And we teach, metaphysics, wellness, yoga, all sorts of stuff in online classrooms. And we've been doing that now since 2021. So we have those, that's sort of the business end of things. But my personal journey, which I think might be a little more interesting, along the way.
Well, you talk about your guides. You asked your guides, what am I supposed to do? When did you get connected? Like you said to me off air that you've really been on your spiritual awakening or your spiritual journey for 12 years. So how many years ago was that? 2017? No, 18, 16. Anyway,
Yeah,
12 years
somewhere
ago.
in there. 15.
15, something like that. 14.
15, 16,
yeah.
somewhere in there. Yeah.
How did
So
you know you had guides?
Well, I started doing Reiki.
Oops. Wrong thing.
I started doing Reiki.
Yeah.
Because I went through 2 burnouts, right? And so as Karen mentioned, and so I started doing Reiki, learning Reiki. And as I was going through the Reiki training, my gifts started to come back, and I met my guides, and all of this stuff sort of started to unfold. So I always joke about Reiki being my gateway drug to everything else that I've done now. So as that happened, I get partway through that, and I start seeing other beings and the other dimensions, feeling the energies. And I've always been an empath. I just didn't know that I was an empath. So that part I always had. And I've always been sensitive because one of the stories that I tell is when I was in, I guess it was Reiki 2, I was in a class, Reiki with crystals. And I was sitting there, and I wasn't particularly clairaudient at the time. And the Reiki master stops mid-sentence, and she looks at me and she goes, "You have a bunch of ascended masters yelling at you all the time. You need to take care of that." And I was like, "Wait, what?" I have what?
A bunch of ascended masters yelling at you all the time. You need to take care of that. I love that.
So I talked to her after class. I'm like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "Well, do you have anxiety?" I'm like, "Yeah." And she's like, "You have trouble focusing?" I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "Yeah, they're yelling at you all the time. You need to form a committee." I'm like, all right. So I came home and I sat down in my chair in the room, and I was like, all right. The only ones I was kind of aware of was Archangel Michael and St. Mark at the time. And so I was like, okay, Archangel Michael and St. Mark, will you please be my committee? And I had like this heart opening feeling. And at that point, I said, all right, the rest of you go through the committee. And it was like, when you have a power outage and it's all of a sudden you realize all that background noise and it's like deafening silence. That's what it was like for me. And I realized how much of that was coming at me. So that was a big eye-opener, and it also helped me to manage it. And I haven't had the same anxiety since, because that was a big learning curve for me, learning how to interact with my guides and get the telepathic communication and all of that stuff sort of moving along. And I had a Reiki client around that time, just after, that came in, and she was intuitive and was having the same sort of thing. She was distracted. She wasn't sleeping well. She was having trouble with, really focusing on things. So I was like, oh, okay, I think we need to form a committee for her. So she comes in, I get her on the table to do the energy healing. The room is packed with her guides. And I'm going, okay. And I can see all of this. All right, cool. All right. And then they start stepping forward. So this guy steps forward and he's like, yeah, I'm Tom. And we've been trying to reach her for years. And I was like, okay, do you know her? Nope, we've just trying to reach her for years. I'm like, all right. And he steps back. And then this other woman comes forward, and turns out she was involved in, she was like the head of the household on a plantation down in Georgia. So I got that information with like a download. I all of a sudden knew who she was. And she was actually very close to the client. They'd had a past life together. And so she stepped forward and was like, you tell her to speak her mind, and in a very Southern accent, which I'm not going to try. And she said, so she was obviously very protective of her. So I asked her and Archangel Michael to be her committee. And before I stopped that, this older woman comes forward, a grandmotherly figure, and says, so I said, so how am I going to tell her that you were here? And she shows me this brooch. It was like a woman's silhouette. And I was like, I've seen these shows, right? I know it's always jewelry. How do I know she's going to know what that is, right? She says, she'll know, dear. She'll know. And I'm like, all right. So then all of a sudden I formed the committee. And as soon as Mary said yes to being the committee with Michael, my client actually sat upright on the table and was like, oh, I need to go to the washroom. I was like, okay. I said, let me just ground you first. She did that. She came back and she then was telling me, she was asking me who these two guys were that were on her shoulders. I didn't know she was a sensitive at the time and intuitive. And she's then proceeded to describe Archangel Michael and Saint Mark exactly how I saw them. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. So it, confirmation, right? You're able to sort of confirm and understand sort of, all right, I'm not the only one seeing this. So that was a very interesting and powerful session. She ended up knowing who the grandmother was. In fact, I told her the brooch and she burst into tears. It was one that she actually had her mother put under her pillow when she was scared at night. It was her grandmother's brooch, and she held it for the birth of her two kids. So it was definitely, she did know who it was for sure right away.
Yeah. So when you said that you formed the committee, you were forming a committee of your guides for you, not for the client. I was a bit confused about that.
No, in that case, it was for the client. So I did one for myself earlier on, and then this one, it was for the client. So they were there and then I told the client. So she just needed to talk to the committee whenever she needed info.
Okay. The committee, the council, the team, the mob. There are many names that we give our guides. What's his name? Hacking the Afterlife. Rich Martini calls it the council. Can I go and talk to your council? I just irreverently call it the mob because that's how I perceived them, as this faceless mob. And when I said, who are you? Who are you? They said, identity is not important. For me, that was my counsel, my counseling. It's not for everybody. Lots of people love identity. They love to know that they're speaking to their loved ones in spirit, dead mother, father, relatives, grandmother, or some archangel, like you say, Michael, or some ascended master. But and forming a different council with different people. Some have galactic guides. Have you ever met? You've had Kevin on Twillo Talk, haven't you?
Yes.
No, Kevin Briggs, you have.
Kevin Briggs, yeah, I did. I had him on Twillo Talk. I also interviewed him for Bridge to the Galaxy, which is the one that I do with the Alliance. So
so he identifies his council, his team, his committee. All of them are galactic. Like he hasn't got any Archangel Michaels or Jesuses or Buddhas or anybody or grandmas in his council and his team. They're all galactic. And
I have a bunch of galactics too.
I do.
I have lots of galactic guides too. It's just when I first started, I those are the ones that were coming forward, So then you learn to meet other ones along the way as these things come online and all of that.
So let's explore when you became more aware of your galactic connections.
So that was kind of interesting because I had a healing that happened. I actually had, this was the first sort of encounter that I was conscious of at the time. It was probably, I would say it was even before I started. It would have been like, I think my son was little, so probably 20 years ago. And I had a pain in my breast here, and I had fallen and hit it on a planter when my son was really little, and hadn't thought anything of it. But it started hurting me right in that spot, and it was like a really kind of pain.
So in the middle of your chest?
Yeah, like on the breast area. And so I, of course thought, well, I better go to the doctor. So go to the doctor, and she's like, okay, we're going to set up a mammogram. I'm like, okay, fine. And then I had to wait for the mammogram. Between when I went to the doctor and the mammogram, I woke up one night feeling like I had a vacuum on my chest.
Wow.
And it startled me because it was such a strong feeling. And as I woke up, there was an ET standing beside the bed with this contraption. And he looked startled to see me, and I was startled to see him. And next thing I knew, I was back to sleep, which obviously I had help with because, after something like that, I don't imagine I went back right away without help. So then I went right back to sleep, and I never had the pain in my chest again. I went to have the mammogram. There was nothing on the mammogram.
Nothing, yeah.
And I never had the pain again.
what flavor of ET? What did he look like? Or he, she, it, them?
Well, I now know him to be Arcturian. He was he is my Arcturian guide Ragus, who actually helps me with a lot of the sort of etheric surgery stuff that I do with clients and whatnot. And but I didn't know who he was at that time. But he's Arcturian, so he became one of my guides after that. He was probably already, but that was the first time I saw him. And then after that, it was, things developed even more.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've got a strong connection to the Arcturians too. They've shown me many things, and I've had many people on the show who also have a strong connection to the Arcturians. So they have, well, in my life anyway, and the people that surround me, big presence on this earth with teaching us about our powers of creation, our healing powers, which are all encompassing our powers of creation. Yes. So there are many different flavors, again, different, like humans don't all look the same with the Arcturian. So what did he look like to you? And obviously when I say he presented as a male energy.
It felt masculine at the time. He is masculine. That's who I've come to know him as. Hey, Jen. Heidi, hi. So yes, it's he is a masculine being, and he's quite tall. A large forehead. In fact, when I first saw him, I actually thought he almost looked like he was wearing some kind of a headdress, like a hat or something. But it's not. It's actually just the way his head is. So he's almost got like tears in the front. The bigger eyes, sort of a very sort of small jaw and chin, and like beige, but not like our skin tone beige, more like a, I don't know, what would you say? Like a tan kind of color, like a browny tan color.
Okay. So sort of deeper
like
brown.
Taupier.
Like taupier. Because a lot of humans have browny, tanny skin colors.
Yes, but it's more taupe. It's more of a taupe color. Like it's different undertone from what we have.
Interesting. Yeah. And once you met him and he communicated that he was, with you, what conversations did you have with him? Like, I'm sure you were curious, like, why with me? What's the story?
Yeah, I actually didn't get into talking to him right away. It was because I think I almost blocked out that healing experience. So I didn't really meet him again until I had my sort of galactic initiation sort of thing, which started, and I was watching Ruben Langdon on Interviews with Ed, and he was interviewing
Adam,
thank you. Adam Apollo. Yes. I don't know why I all of a sudden was like blank. Adam who? Adam Apollo. And who I've since met along the way. And Ruben has actually been on our show as well. And anyway, so he was on talking to Ruben, and all of a sudden, I actually had to go and do an interview for my HR client, and I came running back because I was so enthralled with the show, and I wasn't sure why, but I certainly was. And I sat down, and all of a sudden, the room was filled with galactic beings who I had sort of had the sense that they were my galactic guides. And so they were like, okay, so are you ready? Are you ready? And I was like, okay, yeah. They weren't telling me what it was for, but I just knew I was supposed to be ready for this, and whatever it was, I guess I'm ready. So I said yes. And then the next thing I know, I had all this love being beamed at me, and it made me quite emotional. And so there's me sitting on my couch watching Ruben and Adam talk on TV, and I'm being overwhelmed with ET love, which was great. And I didn't even know what it was. I was like, okay, I don't know what I agreed to, but I don't know, feels good. So, and then I tapped in after, and they're like, oh yeah, you're a Galactic Ambassador. I'm like, oh, all right. I don't know what that means, but I guess we'll see. And then
you didn't ask them, like, what does that mean? What does that mean? What's a
yeah, it will become apparent, which is, okay. In other words, we're not telling you yet. You're not ready.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Yeah. So
I know exactly what you mean when you have the remembrance. Like you shared with me just before we went on air that same story with Adam. That's why I knew it was Adam.
Yes.
You'd already I said, remember to say this on the show. And because I love Adam. I've had Adam on the show a few times. And I think Ruben's doing great work too. I've invited him on the show and we've never got that happening. But yeah, where you just sob with a recognition and a remembrance that you remember stuff you didn't know you'd forgotten. And it's just like overwhelming. You just sob. I did that when I was reading books and when I was in my 20s, like Conversation with God and Yogananda's book, Autobiography of a Yogi. And I would just start crying and I didn't know why I was crying. Like, why am I crying? So this is before, podcasts were so popular.
Yes.
Why am I crying? And that's just this I remember, but I don't exactly know what I remember, but I remember. Is that what it felt like?
Yeah, definitely. That's what it was. Yeah, it was beautiful. So I just waited. I was patient. I just went ahead and, lived my 3D life 3D, as much as you can do 3D life when you're doing energy healing and being a medium and all of that stuff.
4D life. You're living your 4D life.
Exactly. My 4D life. Yeah. And so then partway through that year, so that would have been like in the spring or something, I would say. And then in August that year, 2019, I guess, I woke up one morning and my crown chakra felt like it had been burned. It was like tender. And I was like, I don't know what that's about, but okay. And I had a friend coming to do energy healing on her. And so I start doing it and my hands felt really different. Usually when I'm doing Reiki, it was warm. And then I have another one that I do that's called Aqua Lead. And that one felt like cool waves. And then this was like almost tingly, not painful tingle, but like kinetic feeling. And so I was like, I don't know what's going on. Maybe I'm broken. My hands are doing weird things. Anyway, it was a client that was a friend. So I trusted my guides. I'm like, give her what she needs. And she got up afterwards and she's like, that was intense. And I'm like, I know, I might be broken. I don't know what's going on. She's like, no, it was amazing. It was just really intense. And I was like, oh, all right. Well, that's good. All right. Another day or so later, I was visiting a friend of mine who is an angel communicator, and he's been communicating with his guides for years. And we were doing a soul retrieval share. And all of a sudden this stuff started. And I'm like, okay, Brian, what is this? And he's like, oh, that's a new energy you're bringing to the earth. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do with that? That doesn't come with a manual. And he hands me a paper and pen. He says, go write. And I was like, okay. So I go down to the car and I start writing. Next thing I know, I have 5 pages about a Pleiadian energy healing modality called Nukti. I asked for an English name and was given Grief Relief as an English name. And it heals, it basically helps to reprogram the cytoplasm within the cells to release the frequency of grief and trauma.
Wow.
So I was like, okay.
Needed.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So I just used it on my clients for a couple of years. And then they start talking to me like, okay, it's time to teach it. I'm like, yeah, you haven't given me a manual. When you give me a manual, we'll talk. And then, of course, they send 4 of my intuitive friends after me. Well, I really want to learn that thing that you do. I'm like, of course you do. All right. So I sat down and they channeled a manual to me. And so I taught it for the first time in March of 2021. And during that, Jennifer was in the class, actually. And during that, we went to take a break before we did the attunements and stuff. And Jen stopped me. She's like, okay, they've been showing me this mudra. I wasn't supposed to show it to you, but now I have to. And I was like, okay. So she shows me the mudra, and then we both do the mudra, and the other students have gone off to do a bio break. And Jen and I are doing this mudra, and we both get sent to separate meetings. So I do this, and all of a sudden I'm standing in front of Commander Ashtar Sheeran of the Galactic Federation. There's another commander beside him, and I can feel all these other beings behind me. And we're like up on some sort of platform. And Commander Ashtar goes, okay, like, does this, and I'm supposed to go down on one knee, and I get knighted with this sort of staff that's made out of a metal that I've never seen before. And then he stands me up and he puts his hand on my heart and he says, you are now one of us. And then all of this love, just like the remembrance that you were talking about, is all coming at me. And I'm in tears because I'm overwhelmed. And I can hear my students in the background, we love you, Tanys. It's okay. And I'm like, it's all right. I'll tell you what's happening when I get back, I said. And then, of course, I'm back. And Jen had her own experience, which we'll let her share that. But we're both on separate councils. So I didn't even know what that was about at the time, much like they didn't fill me in before. That time I went in the next day and was like, all right, what was that about? They're like, well, you're now a Galactic Ambassador and a Galactic Teacher. And I was like, okay. Still not really aware of what that means, just knowing that I work with them and that was, that I was doing this healing work. So next thing I know, I'm doing channeling, and I start channeling messages from Commander Ashtar and a few other people that kind of sneak in, some of my other galactic guides. And I'm talking to this friend of mine who's not into any of this stuff. And for some reason, I'm telling him all about this channeling that I'm doing. And I can't not tell him. Like, it was like coming out of me. And I'm like, why am I telling him this? Next thing I know, he says, oh, I have this friend who's doing an ET conference. Maybe you'd like to meet him. Maybe you can volunteer at the conference. I'm like, okay, sure. And he introduces me to Sylvain Rochon of the Alliance for Extraterrestrial Diplomatic Contact.
But hang on. Let's back up a bit. You said, I have this friend who's not into any of this, but then he introduces you to a galactic conference. So he was obviously into it.
No, he had a platform. So he was running a Remo platform.
What's Remo?
It's like a Zoom, but it's got a different layout. Like, you can actually have conferences on there. You can go into a specific table.
Okay, right.
So this was during COVID. So
I see.
Yeah.
And
so he was
and the Galactic Alliance was using his platform. And so after the conversation with you, he's like, oh, there are these other strange people that talk about this stuff too. And so he's connected you. Okay, gotcha.
Yes. Yes.
And he introduces you. Yep.
Yeah. So I get on a call with Sylvain, and he's talking about how they have $50 million to do this ET embassy, and they're trying to, gain political clout by connecting up and collaborating with other agencies, other people, other communities to really bring awareness to all of this stuff. And they want to take that and make some changes to the Geneva Convention, because there's stuff in there that there could be a small adjustment made to allow for diplomatic contact. Right now, there really isn't anything covering them. So with that shift, there would be. So that's why they're trying to gain, numbers in order to bring this to the United Nations. And I'm like, oh, you should talk to Sylvain. You should talk to Adam Apollo. He's like, oh yeah, I have an appointment with Adam next week. I was like, oh, okay.
I think I introduced him to Adam as well, because Adam has a similar sort of mission. Yeah. And
so I ended up telling him the story that I just told you. And I said, so can you let him know that he's making a difference, right? He's like, well, if you're going to join, then, you can tell him yourself. And I was like, you want me to join? He's like, well, yeah. Oh, okay, sure. So I go to the first meeting. There's another woman there who had also been knighted in a similar ceremony. And we start talking, and I'm an HR coordinator. So he asked me to do like an org chart for the organization. And I was like, okay. So all of a sudden he's like, I think we're all Galactic Ambassadors here. And I'm like, that makes sense. And I ended up being the head ambassador for the world for a little while. And then we've got too big, so we split it all up. And I ended up, because I'm doing the Bridge to the Galaxy podcast as well, I ended up going over to production instead of staying there. I'm still a Galactic Ambassador, but I'm not head anymore over there. So Yeah, so I ended up as a Galactic Ambassador for the Galactic Federation and for the Alliance for Extraterrestrial Diplomatic Contact. And Jen ended up joining me after, and so we've both been working with them, and so we're now getting tons of downloads and all of that stuff coming through for them.
Exactly. I think that when you use the word ambassador, it's sort of a big word that I think it makes us feel like we have to be political, we have to be leaders, we have to, own businesses, like something like that. But there are so many ambassadors that are here, just people like Kevin who are sharing their story. Just share your stories, share your contacts, share your psychic adventures. Yeah, and in that you're an ambassador for this connection, for this reveal, for the disclosure, to reveal the connection that we have with our galactic neighbors. Yeah. So
it's really a bridge. The role is really a bridge.
Right. Yeah. What do you feel the ambassador role entails?
It's this bridge, really, right? Bringing information down, and then also communicating about where we're at. I was once called into a meeting and I had the Arcturians on one side of the table and Pleiadians on the other. And I had just been sitting, watching TV, and they're like, go meditate. So I go meditate and I go in. Next thing I know, I'm standing in this room with the two sides, and the Pleiadians are like, can we just go and help them? Like, they need help. The Arcturians are like, no, we have a process. We have to follow the process. They're like, they all look at me and they're like, so do you think they're ready? I'm like, well, I'm ready. I don't know about the rest of them. And so, they want to help, but they do have a process, and they've done this with other planets and other life forms. So they do know sort of what works and what doesn't. But I think absolutely. The ambassadorial role is really to have those kind of conversations and bring that stuff down. It's really a preparatory role so bring information from the Federation down to us. And bring out awareness.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. When I've chatted to the galactic guides, I've asked them many questions about life outside of, because, the exploration of contrast and polarity and the evolution of the soul is what we're doing here on 3D, 4D Earth. And I'm like, so what are you doing when you're not overcoming trauma and struggle and, like navigating negative emotion? And like, what are you doing in your life when you're not overcoming some sort of suffering as a collective, as a group, as a collective, as a planet, as a civilization? And they said, well, we reach out into the cosmos and help others overcome, what you're going through. Like, that's what we do. And I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Like, when you cease to be working on your own problems, then you help others with theirs. And so, they've reached a level of awareness where they're not struggling and overcoming like we are here on Earth, trying to find peace, trying to find love, trying to find healing, trying to find relationships, love. Anyway, and so they reach out to us. So I can imagine that, that enthusiasm that you said the Pleiadians have, if that's their job, if that's what they're here to do. Yeah.
Well, and I have a connection with the Pleiadians, having a past life there. And I was, I guess, a diplomatic role in the Pleiades as well during the Orion Wars. Jen and I were in that lifetime together, and our parents were good friends. So we knew each other from when we were quite little, went to the Celestial Academy together. She was Lyran, I was Pleiadian. And our parents were diplomats together and went to Lyra to have peace talks, supposedly, with the Draconians at the time, or the Resistance. And the planet actually got blown up with our parents on it. They sent Jen off just in time in a ship, and Jen came to see me. And so our parents had been working on the codex for the Federation at that time. And so we ended up in that lifetime stepping into similar roles and working on the Federation Codex with some of the other, all the other leaders, because there were a bunch, of course, that had perished in in that particular incident. And so a lot of us kids ended up sort of stepping in and picking up the mantle from our parents and working through that. So I have done this sort of diplomacy role before in that lifetime as Tariel. And so I've had memories of that lifetime even before some of the other stuff. And I knew that I had been Pleiadian. I had a vision one time of tending a tree. This was the first time I'd had this. It was like seeing my own hands, but they were blue and there was like 3 fingers and a thumb. And I was like tending a small fir tree or something in this egg-shaped thing. And I looked out and there was like a corridor and space out the window. And so that was kind of my first vision of actually seeing a past life with me as a Pleiadian. And that was way before much of the other stuff started to come in. So that was a little bit odd at the time. It certainly made a lot more sense once some of the other memories started coming back. And so my mother in that lifetime was involved in plants and stuff. So it made sense that I had that visual.
So you were blue as a Pleiadian. I think a lot of people see the Pleiadians as like Nordic-looking blonde humanoids, but you, I mean, a lot of the Greys have identified themselves as Pleiadian as well, because the Pleiades is a constellation, not a planet. And when did you discover your connection? This is fascinating. Yeah, he's so happy, says Carl.
Thanks, Carl.
When did you, it's nice that your audience too can hear your story, because we're streaming on Tanys's platforms, on her Facebook and YouTube as well. Discover your connection with the Galactic Wars. When you speak about them, I just sit here thinking, God, it sounds like an episode in Smallville. You know, the Superman. It's like I've been watching Smallville, which I never watched when it came on television 20 years ago. It started in 2001. I think it ran to 2011, but I've been watching it on a streaming platform lately. And with all these shows that talk about, you know, Superman's an alien and they're out there having galactic wars and stuff like that, they never introduce the, you know, beings that are insectoid or grey looking or blue looking. Like they're always human looking. Well, except for Star Trek, of course, which has many different beings, but in the Superman series. But they do talk about, you know, they show the planet Krypton being exploding. And when I watched it on television, I thought about my conversation with Jennifer and the galactic wars and all that sort of stuff and being depicted. Yeah. So when did you recognize that you had that connection, and how did you recognize that? Jen?
Well, with Jen, we had talked about the fact that we both had like galactic lives and that kind of thing. And we were connected right from the beginning. We recognized each other right away and we were close after. So we were chatting one day and I guess we had talked about different memories that we'd had of that time. And then Jen had basically a flashback, and it was about the planet exploding. And so I was helping her with some healing work and stuff while she was going through it. And I could see it somewhat in my head, not a lot, but a little bit. So I knew that I had a connection to it. I felt very much all of her emotion around it. And then as she started writing her book, she started to get more and more information. So she would talk to me about the information, and that would then bring other memories of mine from that lifetime. And so we would talk about those. And so I'm actually going to be writing a book that's a companion book for hers. Hers is the Lyran Legacy. Mine will be the Pleiadian Legacy. And it's about our life together, basically, because we became sisters after that, after the parents left. And so when I read Jen's book, of course I read it early, and the first time I read it, I cried all the way through. It was a total visceral reaction. All of my body knew that was it. And the name and all of the details, just, I had tingles throughout my body and I cried, and I just knew that was my story. And so as we spoke more, and then I've had more memories come back since. And so it's really just you don't expect these things. They just kind of, the visuals come to you, and all of a sudden you have a physical reaction to it. So there's something more to it when there's
Absolutely.
a physical. Yeah. So it was a very physical reaction when I would have ET stuff. Yeah.
Absolutely. This is fascinating. I want to explore more of that lifetime and how it dovetails, with what's happening here on Earth. But first we're going to do a station ID. Here we go.
You're listening to ATP Media, Awakening and Expanding Consciousness with Karen Swain on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network on 107.7 FM and 105.3 FM. Syndicated radio hitting about 120 countries and streaming on 8 platforms.
And my guest today is Tanys. Oh, gone blank.
Coughlan, yes.
I'm looking at your name. Coughlan, who is sharing her story about her spiritual awakening and her galactic remembrance. And as you said, I think it started around 12 years ago, because you had a very corporate life and working in healthcare and management and in that 3D corporate world, and then had this complete turnaround. And illness was the thing that really woke you up, I suppose. You had an illness earlier in life, which you addressed allopathically, through the allopathic system that we have, and that probably didn't address it fully. And then you had to start looking in other directions, more energetically, which I suspect our galactic brothers and sisters, if they have any form of imbalance or distortion or hurt themselves, they use the energetic systems to address any problems with their physical forms too. You said before that you downloaded a Palladian healing technology. Have they sort of talked to you about the way that other planets address healing or distortion? Because I'm thinking with the way that many, not all, but many of their consciousness operates, they're not stressing or worrying, and they're not really getting sick through that way or taking on genetic genes and cancers and that sort of thing. But they probably do have accidents and need physical healing. Have they spoken to you about that?
Actually I had a memory come back of my life in the Pleiades, where I was actually because it was during the war, I was shot. Someone got into our sacred space and shot me, and there was actually a healing pool of water in this cave in the basement, or in underground in the building we were in, and that water was so healing that it was placed on poured onto the wound, and the wound just healed.
Wow.
So it was quite amazing to see that happen.
What color was the water? Do you know? Because I've heard this many times. Yeah, go on. What?
That's a good question. I feel like when I see it, it's very turquoise color.
Okay.
Yeah. Very turquoise color. That particular spot, and it was like this. It was in this like a healing pool. Looked like a little cave that you could go in and swim in under the.
Nice.
So that was how they kept healthy, was to swim in this cave water. But they also do a lot of crystal stuff as well. They've got crystals there, of course, that we don't have here. And so there's a lot of that stuff. When I was there as a Pleiadian, my mother was a herbal healer. And so a lot of plant medicine was used as well. So we actually would go when I was younger, and we would travel all over the universe, or all over our galaxy anyway, and bring home samples of the different plants from the different planets, because they had different healing properties. And so we had this huge greenhouse dome thing that was part of our place there. And in there we had plants from all over the galaxy, because my mother was this renowned herbal healer. So she would, be propagating plants all the time. And when one of them would have success, I remember us, dancing around the greenhouse, celebrating and, celebrating with the plants themselves. And all of that. So there was a lot of energy healing, like consciousness, that sort of thing. There was crystalline technology. They did do some of the herbal stuff as well. That was also about preserving, the plant lineages from the other planets as well. During the war, it became important because we didn't know, like that one planet in the Lyra system was totally gone. So any of the plants that were there were gone. So there was a fear around that.
Well, yes. I'm just having a chat to the mob. Because they're saying that nothing, they've said to me on several occasions that nothing is extinct because the DNA technology counterpart is available, like the energetic DNA structure. And just like in Jurassic Park, where they can take the DNA and reinvent the dinosaurs who are extinct, they can do that with plants and bodies. And their technology is so much more evolved than we understand.
Absolutely.
Just exciting. When I see things, as I've been watching, Superman, and he's a sort of healing when he's not the Kryptonian. They've always got the Kryptonian story that makes him weak. But when that's not happening, and they depict on television wounds like healing instantly, that always really excites me when I see that depicted on television. I've actually seen it physically happen too in this lifetime. I've seen things heal instantly on myself and on my daughter, like just miraculously before my eyes, just like they depict on television. Things just like you speed up manifestation, because normally when you cut yourself, you wait for the blood to coagulate and then it forms a scab, and then a few weeks later, and there's this sort of evolution of healing that's slow rather than it just healing instantly. But I have seen instant healing with my physical eyes, and it's so exciting. I love watching it depicted on television too, because it's possible. It's possible. Yeah.
Another memory that we had, it was a joint memory because we were doing a past life regression with one of our friends, and it was like she was Arcturian, and she was helping a woman give birth, but it wasn't able to do it physically. So she literally like dissolved the stomach, or like made it so see-through that she could just go through, pull the baby out, and then re-solidify the stomach with the baby out. It was that was amazing to see.
Wow.
Yeah. That was in that lifetime again too. A memory from there.
So with the galactic wars, I have heard people explore this on many other podcasts, but before Jennifer, I had actually never explored it on my show. And as I say, it sounds like an episode of Smallville. But why do you think, because when I had Jennifer on the show, so many people in the comments really related to her story as she shared her story. And I'm like, wow, there seems to be a lot of people relating to this. Why do you think that you guys are here on Earth at this time holding those memories as aware? Because I'm sure we've got many memories that we're not aware of, but the ones that you're aware of are directly influencing who you are on the planet at this time.
Well, I think that Jen and I are both here to play that ambassadorial role. And because we're multidimensional, right, we can plug into those memories, plug into that lifetime, because there is no time and space, right? So we just kind of intend to be there, and we are in the energetics of things, quantum physics and all. And so I think we're really bringing back some of the memories, some of the history for that reason, because there's a lot going on right now in terms of our political structures and things like that are being influenced, by some of these well, I mean, there's a lot of negative influence, and we can talk about how, like, where that's coming from and whether it's draconian or not, which not all the draconians are nefarious, by the way. There are quite a few that are very, very kind. And there was at that time as well, but they got pulled into it. And part of the story that Jen tells in her book is about some of them that pulled away and were pulling away from the draconian regime, and how we were involved in that as well. And it was one of them that actually helped us stop the war back then. So I think that, it's, I mean, not us, like just her and I, but like the whole council, the whole federation at that time. So it's to bring that memory and that it's possible, to bring some of the insights that happened, because we have that as information. We need to be able to tap into it in this time and find the similarities. There's a lot of stuff happening that is similar, and it's mirroring some of the history, which we know happens, right? Even here on Earth. And so there's stuff that we can learn from those memories to bring forward. And I know, one of the things that I've been getting over and over again, I'm actually writing a book about this as well, is, lead with love and let love lead you. And that was a big theme back then, making sure that whatever we're doing it out of love. And that's something that can be universal.
Yeah.
So, bringing that sort of thing in. And I think having not just us, but all of the Galactic Ambassadors, Jen and I are just two of them. But like you were saying, there's so many. And all of us are bringing in our own memories, our own experiences, because it's important for us to learn from that stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
As you're talking about galactic wars, I'm thinking about wars on Earth. And as you're talking about the Draconians and who they are, I'm talking to my mob and I'm saying, what was their story? And they're saying, well, much like the story that's been on Earth, control. And then I've gone to World War II. And there was one group of people who wanted to not only control another group of people, but eradicate them. And that played out in World War II. And that's still playing out today with this Gaza-Israel thing going on. Do you think it is remnants of galactic history? Like, where do you think that all comes from? Any insights into that, Tanys?
Well, I think, there's certain energetic patterns that play through, and we hold on to them in the system. They kind of, like when we talk about neutrinos, Jen and I talk about neutrinos a lot, about them coming down, and that's kind of affects sort of our energy here on Earth. And I think there's neutrinos that are still floating around out there that have affected some of the Earth in an energetic way, right? Whether there's there's a lot of speculation as to the Draconians and their influence here on Earth. There are many people that feel they're here and they're acting in behind the scenes. I say many people.
The lizard people. Do you ever watch the show? What's it called? The Y-Files. And he has his little. It's a show for the emerging awakening consciousness, but they go into a lot of conspiracy theories. And there's a fish, a talking fish, and he's like, the lizard people. Anyway, it's funny. The lizard people.
I mean, I have not stepped on a platform either way for that, in terms of whether they're here or not. We are definitely having their influence. So that's what I would say. I know that we do.
You say their influence. I don't think that it belongs to them. It's like Byron Katie says, nobody ever has a new negative thought. I don't think negative thoughts actually belong to a group or a civilization or a planet or a cosmos. It's just who's engaging in thoughts of disempowerment, because when you feel disempowered, you want to control others.
That's right.
And, when I was talking to Jennifer, like, why did these wars happen? Like, I don't get it. Why? We think of the cosmos as being so enlightened and Earth not so enlightened. And they're saying, one group of people wanted to control another group of people, and they fought over a piece of land. And I'm like, sounds very human, right? It sounds like every war that's ever existed on Earth. But this sort of control drama. I don't think control belongs to Draconians. I think control is an energy, a fear that is neutrinos, whatever you want to call it, that's out there in the universe as a vibrational sphere that you can engage with or not. To put the poor old Draconians in that camp and say, they are the devil, the lizard people. There's so many stories of, governments and kings and queens being shape-shifting reptilians. What do you think about all that?
Yeah. I think that a lot of things get distorted.
Right.
Through all of it. I do think that there are ETs here. You know, I think that I have felt them, but they're in a different frequency from what we're in.
When you say I think that there are ETs here, you mean nefarious ETs or ETs?
In general, I'm talking
ETs that are wishing to help humanity evolve.
Both. I think there's both. Because we have polarity here. So I think there's both. I think that the ones that are helping us are definitely more prominent than some of the others. I think there's a lot of talk about the nefarious ones and all of that. And I would say that that is maybe not all accurate.
Yeah.
You know, I think there's room for a lot of more grounded exploration in that department. But that's coming from someone who has their own experiences, right? And so there are many other, and I keep in mind, I came into all of this whole journey as a very, very much a skeptic girl. So it takes a lot to get me to the in terms of where I am now. It's been a lot of experiences, you know, having ET guides show up at my house. I had ETs in my backyard. I had a whole delegation of mantids come to my backyard. So I was I
wanted to talk to you about the mantids, but when you say they show up, are they showing up as physical form, like dense, or are they showing up in your third eye? Like, how are they showing up in there? Are they in their subtle energy bodies? Are they in their more dense energy bodies?
Yeah, for them, they were in their subtle energy bodies. They were definitely in a higher vibrational frequency. So they were not physical. They weren't 3D at that point.
And yet you could see them with your physical eyes, or you were seeing them as a vision in your inner eye?
No, it was pretty physical. For me, how the whole mechanism works for me is I feel that there's energy there, and then I'll often see it in my third eye. Yeah. But this was much more like I was seeing the energy and feeling it. It was much more here than a lot of the other guides and stuff that I actually talked to.
Okay.
So, but it was not physical. It wasn't something you could see with it wasn't in a regular range.
Right. Yeah. The spectral range. Yeah.
Yeah. It wasn't in that, but I wasn't the only one that saw them. So I was I had just given a class on channeling, and we were in my sunroom, and all of a sudden I hear, "May we speak with you, please?" in my head. And I'm like, okay. So I look around, and there's this 7-8 foot mantis being standing outside the sunroom. I was like, okay, so I'm going to be right back. And I walk out, and I'm looking up at him, and he looks down at me, and he said, "We understand that you are a Galactic Ambassador." And I said, "Yes, apparently so. Could you please pass on a message that not all insectoids are nefarious?" I said, "Yeah, sure." Mm-hmm. He's like, "Thank you." And he kind of did this and turned around and waddled off towards the back of the yard where there were 5 more. Excuse me. So I turned to my women in my group, and I said, "You guys seeing anything back there?" And one of them sees but not detail, and so she could see 6 outlines, energy outlines out there, and she's the one that told me that. I just asked if she could see anything, and so I was like, okay, all right, I guess, you know, I'm not going crazy at this point, and there is actually something there.
Was that his only message? He didn't introduce himself. He didn't say, "I'm a part of your team, your council, your tribe."
Nope.
No, just please extend the information that not all insectoids are nefarious.
Yeah.
Insectoids are nefarious.
I did have the sense that he was from the Federation.
Okay.
And so this was like almost like a test, right? Like okay, we're going to give you a little assignment and see how you do. Because it was shortly after I said yes to all of this. So.
And have you had any other communication with that being?
He comes in every so often when I'm doing light language
Uh-huh.
and speaks. Okay, so it comes across quite different from when the others come through with light language. It's a different feeling and a different language. So it comes in with a lot of clicks and ticks and, you know, that sort of thing.
And why did he give you that message? Why did he feel that humanity thought that insectoids were nefarious? Because they look so different? Because of Men in Black and there's a big cockroach being that's trying to take over the world? Why?
Yes.
Why did he give you that message?
Yeah, I think it is because of the overall feel with our media, because really they influence our movies and stuff, which is why some of the stuff that we have is so similar, right? We have Star Trek, we have the Star Wars and all of that stuff, as well as Men in Black. And so in all of those, our portrayal is not always accurate to who they really are. I mean, the mantis beings are incredibly smart, very, very advanced in their technology and how they deal with people and all of that stuff. And there's both as well. There are some that are connected to the hybrid stuff, and that is seen as not so good from our perspective, even though we've probably got contracts to do all of that. They want to make sure that we're not painting them all with the same brush, because they're not all involved in those programs that are seen with a negative tone.
When I watch the Freshie podcasters that are all talking about UAP disclosure and stuff like that, and they're kind of going down the rabbit hole more into consciousness and ET communication, as soon as they meet something that they don't understand, they do see it as nefarious, like the hybrid program, the insectoids, the greys, the reptilians. They're all out to get us. But it's probably a part of the collective programming that, the media has pumped out over the years. As soon as you meet something you don't understand, you're afraid of it. What did the guide say before we went online? Something about fear and something about not understanding equals fear.
Yes.
But I can't remember exactly what they said, but the hybrid program. So you are a part of the hybrid program, and so is Jennifer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How did that play out for you? I think you shared a little bit on Twilio Talk when we were having a gas bag, gals, but that was fascinating. How did you know that you were part of the hybrid program?
Well, it started out that I this is kind of typical for moms in the hybrid program. You have what you think is like a miscarriage at around 3 months. And so I went 96 days without a period when I was trying to get pregnant with my son. And then it was like nothing. And I was tested. It never came through as being pregnant. But I just knew that there had been something. I didn't know what it was or anything. And then I had a medium here one day. I was helping her with a headache. And as she sat up after having the session, she's looking behind me and she's like, "Did you have a daughter?" And I said, "I don't know." And she said, "Did you have a miscarriage?" I'm like, and I started to cry. I had no idea that it was a miscarriage because I'd never been tested positive as pregnant. And she told me that she was a year older than my son, which is when I would have had it. And that she looks like me. And, she would have been 19 at the time or something like that. And I was like, wow, okay. And I cried like it was heavy crying. So I thought I'd actually had a miscarriage. Then a few years later, I was in my naturopath's office and she starts talking to me about the hybrid program. And I had heard some of it, but not the hybrid children, that part of it. And so she's talking to me about it. All of a sudden I start crying. I am just overwhelmed with grief and like a longing feeling. Next thing I know, my daughter shows up, but instead, and I felt her when she came in with the medium. I actually felt her. I felt her hug me and all of that. So she came in again at the naturopath. Both of us saw her, and this time, instead of just looking like me, she had big blue eyes, like what you would see. So they were, large, almost like the size of my glasses, but they're big blue eyes. And she had long, dark, curly hair and looked like me, but these big blue eyes. So before, she hadn't shown me the big blue eyes because she didn't want to scare me. And this time, because I was having the reaction, she could come in and show her true self to me. And so I've had numerous conversations with her. She comes and talks to me, and we've connected. She was working in the hybrid program with the children when I first started to see her. And I ended up having memories of actually having to leave her there when she was about 3. And so for me, the story for me is that they took me out one night. I went, gave birth to her, and stayed with her for a while. And then they put me right back in the same moment, and I was no longer pregnant. And in coming back that day, I had to leave her. And I was on the ship where there was like this big open, like park area. And they literally like almost had to pry us apart. And so I had that memory that was on a ship.
Okay, so when they took you out of time and space,
Mm-hmm.
you were about 3 months pregnant, but you were there. Did the gestation period last 9 months? Like you were there for that period of time, or you said?
So I'm going to say I don't know.
You don't know, but
I don't have memory around that, like how long it was or anything. I just have memory that I was taken away from her at that time, and that I was told that I was with her for that time. But then it was time for me to go down.
Did you have a natural birth on the ship, or was it like a C-section? Like how did it all, what's the memories that came?
Let me just check, because I don't have memories around the birth itself.
Mm-hmm.
So let me just check with them and see what they say.
Mm-hmm. I know that.
Yeah, it was more of a natural.
They can extract the fetus and put it in like an incubation chamber and put you back, on Earth, and incubate it in an incubation chamber. We talked about this on Twillo Talk, I think, that many hybrid children are like test tube babies and formed in some sort of incubation chamber. But then to have more of an emotional connection with the human mother, there is a period of time that the gestation is in the womb.
Yeah.
It could be 2 months, 3 months, could be longer. But a lot of hybrid mothers say that period of around 3 months is when they felt pregnant, and then they weren't.
Yeah.
And they didn't really have a miscarriage that they remember. But they even some have tested positive for being pregnant, and then they've gone to the doctor and they're no longer pregnant, but they haven't had a miscarriage. It's like, hey, what's happened? Yeah. So.
Well, I had all the pregnancy symptoms during that 3-month period. But I didn't come back as pregnant. So I don't know. But she's half Pleiadian and half human. So somewhere along the way, I have not had memories of the actual birth. They're just telling me that it was more of a natural birth. I know that ours was an interesting one because they thought that they had erased all of my memories from it. And there were some that weren't. And they usually can sever the emotional bond piece, but they didn't with us. So I went through some big clearing and having to work through that separation piece with her a few years ago. And it was pretty heavy. In my past lives, I've had numerous where I've lost children or they've been taken away, or I've been taken away, or, we've had separation. So I think in this particular instance, I think that's why it was more difficult to sever that for them, because they usually are able to like manipulate that sort of thing so that we don't have the emotional upset of it all.
And what is the reason that the Palladians have a hybrid program with humans? Like, what's the reason? Why are they doing it? Do you know?
Well, they're more like us than some of the other races. And so the hybrid program is, they're going to be some of the first ones that come down that are actually here. So they're this particular one that we're involved in anyway.
So when you say come down, how do you mean come down?
Be more physical here on Earth.
So come down in spaceships, come down being birthed through human bodies, come down in spaceships.
Yeah.
Okay. So when we have open diplomatic contact with ET humanoids, they will be hybrids. So they'll be more energetically connected to us because they carry our DNA. And so we can relate.
Easier for them here.
Easier for them here, right? Okay. Yeah. And easier for us to relate to them. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I get that. Makes a lot of sense. So the first beings that are going to make themselves known globally to humanity are not going to be 7, 8 foot or 15-foot mantis beings. They're going to be human-looking beings that carry human DNA. Yeah. Okay.
Because
makes sense.
The Pleiadians. I mean, even my past life as Teriel, I was human-looking. The only difference was that I had the 3 fingers instead of 4.
And you were blue, weren't you?
Blue, but it was pale blue, just a blue tint. Like, it's not like I was like bright blue, you know. It was just a pale,
it's the way they depict Krishna in the Hindu paintings. Yeah, he's got that pale blue skin.
Yes.
Yeah. My ex-husband who followed the Hare Krishna religion for many years, he used to say to me, "You think Krishna was an alien? He had blue skin." And I'm like, "You think?" I think so.
I do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Blue skin. Hello. Doesn't that say something? How many humans do you know with blue skin? Anyway, I did have a friend who had a hole in her heart, and when she used to get exhausted, she used to turn blue because of the unoxygenated blood pumping through her veins was very blue. Yeah. But
when I channel, one of my guides is Oni, and he's a Pleiadian. He's part of my Pleiadian lineage. And when I channel him, people have noticed that my skin actually goes blue. Like, not really blue, but I have like a blue power that comes over.
Yeah. I mean, when we get cold, humans can look blue often, you know, when we're cold. Yeah, and that's the red blood sort of retreats, and the blue veins sort of, the unoxygenated blood. Yeah. So we've got about 15 minutes left of the show. We haven't had any questions or many comments today. You've been very quiet audience today, which is
that a good sign or
I don't know. Normally they're a lot louder. They're usually talking to each other and making comments and talking about there. But I'd love to know to the audience that is listening both live and to the recordings, are you a galactic ambassador, and how you feel? What is your role as an ambassador here on Earth? Tell us your story in the comments. I'd love to hear more of that. So anything else you'd like to share with us, Tanys, that the Galactics would like humanity to know? I'm really blown away at the revelation that the first ETs that will interact physically with humans will be, of course, the hybrids, part of the hybrid program. Makes so much sense.
And that's the one that my daughter was working on for many years. So she was helping with the little ones. And when I went there, so I've taken clients on a journey to go and meet their hybrid children. And we often will bring them to this open area with in the big park area. And then sometimes they'll take us on a tour. I know one of the tours that we went on, we were seeing the hybrid children learning how to levitate things and, you know, doing telekinesis and also working on telepathy, although they use that a lot on the ships. But learning, you know, things that they could use here as well. So the ship that they're on is sort of tempered in terms of the environment so that it's more similar to here. And so they're working on some of the things that they can do on other ships that they might not be as able to do on that ship. So that's some of the things that they're doing there. My daughter's now moved on to flight school. She wants to fly ships, so she's not with the hybrid program anymore.
Fair enough. I would too. If I was her.
But I do have a couple of things.
Maybe I am in another lifetime. When do you think open contact will be a reality? I know Bashar says 2027, which is next year, and Sylvain, who's been on the show a couple of times, when I've pinned him down to when he's going to, like, when's the fruition of the embassy going to happen? He's sort of tossing around 2030. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on it?
I think we're closer to 2027.
You think next year we'll have full open contact?
27, 28, say, within the next 2 years. I think that we will start to have more ships in the sky. I don't know that we'll have beings walking around until 2028, 2029, but I definitely think we're going to be seeing more and more ships.
Well, so, having done this podcast for so many years, like 25 years talking to spiritual New World teachers and galactic consciousness, so many people have revealed that there are ETs all over the planet walking around. We just don't see them. Some have a holographic technology which covers up their blue skin, and to us they look human, and there's all sorts of things happening. But I guess it's the reveal that that's actually happening on a global stage. that this is true on this global stage. I don't know, 2027. What does is she Jen? Pogo.
That's Kaylee.
Kaylee. She said she's in her second year of Tanys's Galactic Shaman program. So would consider herself an ambassador, a galactic ambassador. I also have 2 hybrid children, she says, thanks to Tanys assisting and guiding. There was no fear with that. And she's very thankful to you, darling one. Yeah. I feel like I've got hybrid children too. I've never actually explored that. Mm-hmm. But a lot of things make sense to me. That my mother, she had, her mother had 2 deaths. I think that her mother had, how many children? 3, 4. I think her mother originally had 5, 2 had died. But when you look at her with her 3 brothers, her physical form is completely different. She looks completely different. She looks like she's related to them, but she's taller. She's like, just everything's different about her. And I'm like, okay, that DNA was tweaked. Like that DNA was tweaked, and I have her DNA. So there was a reason for that DNA being tweaked. But yeah, I think they've been playing with our DNA for sure.
Well, I've been told that they thought that I was a hybrid. I don't have the physical characteristics of Pleiadians at this point, but I've been told that my energy signature is much like that. And so I don't know.
Well, I think we're all hybrids. I think that the evolution of the physical form here on Earth has been tweaked over many years and continues to be upgraded. The DNA continues to change. And it's all part of us being more energetically aligned to our cosmic neighbors too, because, all our telepathic and psychic abilities coming online is all part of the dormant DNA being reactivated. And that energy activation is more of a match to them so that we can interact with each other on an energetic basis. So there is an alignment there, and there's not misalignment, because, I can imagine beings coming to Earth from other places in the cosmos.
I had some of that DNA activation as well. Probably about 8 years ago, I had a DNA activation, and it definitely did pull through a lot of abilities that I didn't have before. So it definitely lights up different abilities, particularly the telepathic stuff. Being able to really tap into intuitive things more, and having almost conversations with my guides in my head instead of having to work hard at channeling, those kinds of things. So when the DNA gets activated, it definitely does help.
Yeah. And Kaylee says she wonders that about herself too. My mother had experiences when she was young, and I'm wondering if I'm a result of that, like you. Yeah, I feel like for me to have the abilities that I've expanded on in this lifetime, Mum's DNA had to be tweaked. Like the family that I come from, But she didn't ever explore it or go down that rabbit hole. She explored other things like getting sick and dying young. And she's back, reincarnated. But yeah, I've taken on her DNA, and I think Dad is the same, coming from his lineage. So I think that a lot of the starseeds and light workers and indigos and healers and psychics that are here on the planet, they've had in their DNA lineage, in their family lineage, there's been this sort of tweaking happening for them to be a result of having that ability, and it will continue. You know, my daughter carries my DNA, and it will continue to expand and open and expand and open, and eventually we'll be a galactic civilization where we're all communicating telepathically and teleporting to different planets and having a lovely time. Exactly. Yeah, not in my lifetime, but it'll happen.
I don't know. The telepathy thing is you know, Jen and I can do that. But she and I have been in so many lives together that our energy is just hooked in, right? So one of us, something will be going on with one of us, and I'll be like, "Are you okay, Jen?" And then I'm feeling a no. I'm like, "Okay, I need to call her." And it's you know, or she'll call me and say, "What's going on?" Like, "Well, I'm just in the middle of this." "Oh, okay, I'm going to help." You know, that sort of thing happens to us frequently, as it does to many. You know, and I think that's just indicative of the connections that we all have, because we're all connected. We're all connected by energy, by DNA structure, by the collective consciousness, you know, all of that. So
it's just a decision, isn't it, Tanys? How much awareness do you want to have in your life? Like, how much awareness, and how does it dovetail with the life that you want to lead, and who you want to be in this lifetime? Seth said, when I read his books when I was in my 20s, that humans are all operating telepathically on your planet, although you're not aware of it. But he said you couldn't drive on your roads if you were not. So I remember thinking, wow, that makes so much sense. Because when you're driving, you're in a fast vehicle, you kind of know intuitively what that car's going to do, and that car, and like, you are operating in this telepathic connection, but we're not really aware that we're aware. Aware that we're aware, but you know how much awareness. It's a decision about how much awareness do you want to have in this lifetime. And and when you don't awaken to your, like my friend who died in her 30s, she just didn't want to go down that road. Many people, my daughter has said the same thing. You know, she doesn't want to seem so strange. She wants to fit in with the mainstream narrative and not look too crazy. And then there are others that probably like you and me and many others that are like, yep, I'm crazy and I know it, and I'm happy about it.
And I'm out there.
I'm not crazy, extraordinary.
My son teases me about coming out of the broom closet.
Exactly. Coming out of the galactic closet. Exactly. I was in there with a few greys and a couple of mantids and a few hybrid beings, some Arcturians, a few Palladians. We're having a party in the closet. Now we open the door. Yeah.
We step out.
Darling Bon, it's been such a joy and an honor and a pleasure to hear more of your story. I feel like there's so much more to it that you haven't actually shared with us today, but you'll probably put it all in a book, in a couple of books, I suspect. And I love that you said that you were a skeptic as you're talking about all this stuff.
Yeah, it really, they had to have me go through experiences, because I was like, what? No.
Yeah, because you came from that really corporate mindset, that corporate background, very structured, very organized, very sort of linear evidence. Yeah, so you had that sort of mind. Yeah, and I love watching people's minds open. Yeah, people's minds open, an open mind. Like a parachute. Your mind only works when it's open, like a parachute. Have you heard that? Yeah. Like a parachute only works if it's open. It's like your mind.
Yeah, it's been a lovely adventure. You know, it's a lot of fun when you start to step into who you really are, and you do what you love. You know, I am a very different person now than I was when I was in management and corporate world. You know, I was not happy. I was meant to learn stuff there, and you know, to go forward and do stuff. But
I think the exploration of our psychic abilities is so exciting. It can be frustrating sometimes, but it's so exciting to sort of see, who you are and what we can do.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Kaylee. Thanks for hanging in there, darling one. She says it's a great conversation. It was a great conversation. We had a very small audience online today, but hopefully people will listen back to this later. And just like Kaylee did, let us know if you feel like you're a Galactic Ambassador and what you feel your role is in being a part of the bridge connecting our world with other worlds throughout the cosmos, or our consciousness with other consciousnesses throughout the cosmos. We can have a bridge to the spirit side. We can have a bridge to different dimensions, like the elemental world, the fairies and the Sasquatch. They seem to be able to move through different dimensions, different frequencies. And this bridge, how are you a bridge waking up people? Great to watch the last bit. Can't wait to start from the beginning.
Thanks, Laura.
We got to go. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's been beautiful to have you on the show.
Such an honor, Karen. Thank you so much for having me and allowing me to share.
You're doing great work, especially with all your shows. Go and check out in the description underneath is a link to my website. I've got all Tanys's links there, but check out Twillo Talk and just name your YouTube. Is it Twillo? If you put in Twillo on YouTube, you'll find your YouTube.
Twillo Lifestyle Community is the one
Twillo
on YouTube.
Lifestyle Community. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Big love. Thanks, everyone.
Big love, everyone.
Bye for now.